Welcome to this new video on Gran Turismo 7, where I'm going to show you a whole bunch of little secrets, a whole bunch of small details that make Gran Turismo 7 a truly unique game. This is the second video like this that I'm making about Gran Turismo 7. And by the way, a lot of you suggested quite a few little-known things in the comments of the first one. So if you like this kind of video, feel free to check out the first episode. And if you know any other details or little secrets that most Gran Turismo 7 players don't know about, don't hesitate to share them in the comments. This way, I might make a third or even fourth video for you in this style. The first thing I want to show is actually something to listen to. There's a pretty cool detail in Gran Turismo 7. When you upgrade your car, especially when you reduce its weight, the sound in the interior view changes. So let me play that for you. We're at stock weight before reducing it. Here's the sound after weight reduction. No exhaust changes, that's the only modification. You can hear the engine a lot more, and you can also hear the rolling noises a lot more. For the simple reason that in this game, when you reduce the car's weight, they consider that to save weight. On the car, among other things, they remove the door panels, for example, but also the interior trim, which adds weight and generally serves to soundproof the inside of the car. Because they're removed to save weight, the game also removes them from the audio, causing more noise after the weight reduction. I think that's really cool. Next, I wanted to show you two really cool things about the Citroën DS, the old generation, the DS Palace. This car has two pretty incredible things when it comes to modeling. The first is that it's one of the only cars in the game to have a gear shifting system with a lever that's directly behind the steering wheel. You see here, when you shift gears, you don't have, as is usually the case in most cars in the game, a lever that's in the middle of the car on the center console. Here, there's a lever behind the steering wheel, and the hand animations reach for the correct gear in the right spot. And that's really cool because it's not necessarily the case in all games, but there's another feature that I think is completely unique to this car in Gran Turismo 7. It's that this car, back in the day, was one of the first cars in the world, maybe even the very first car in the world, to offer a steering-linked lighting system. Literally, the headlights turn according to how you turn the steering wheel so that they simply light up the direction you're going to take. And that's implemented in Gran Turismo 7e. If you turn the steering wheel, I'll show you while the car is stopped so it's clear. You'll see the headlights. The DS's central headlights turn based on the direction you're steering to better light the road, which is still impressive. Also, know that if you log into Gran Turismo 7 on your birthday, or at least the birthday you entered on your game account, the game will give you a little gift. So often, it's cars. It'll be a random car that's given to you, but it can also be, from what I've seen on some game forums, lottery tickets that you can receive. You'll have to open them like daily tickets, and they'll give you a more or less interesting reward. A small detail that I find pretty nice is that on older cars, let's say cars produced up until the 2010s, when you have traditional odometers with numbers that roll as you drive, they're also functional in Gran Turismo 7. You can see here, for example, on the older generation Mazda MX-5, look at the number all the way to the right, the one in white. It will roll as you cover more distance. There, we were at 9, and as we go 1 more kilometer, it will go back to 0 on the rightmost column. I think that's really cool. Another little modeling detail, pretty nice and unique in the game, because I think only this car has it. On the Tesla Model 3, this car, like all recent cars, has a big screen in the middle, and the car that's displayed on the screen, so here, a white Tesla Model 3. It's white because I have a white Tesla Model 3. But here, you see, I switched to a blue Tesla Model 3, and if I switch inside the car on the dashboard screen, you'll see that it actually turned blue. By the way, since we're talking about car interiors, just know that normally, in Gran Turismo 7, the interior of the cars isn't customizable, meaning you can't choose the color of the leather. And you also can't choose whether you'll have Alcantara, leather, or fabric for the seats. Normally, you can't do that, or at least, you can't do this on new cars. As you can see, I'm showing some random examples, but it's the same for every car in the game. You can change the exterior color, the paint, but almost never the interior. On the other hand, for used cars, it's a little different, because there will be used cars with interiors that are pre-customized, pre-configured. I'll show you here, for example, my Honda Integra Type R, black, with a black interior, and a bit of carbon look plastic trim in the center. If I go to the used car shop now, I saw that there was another one for sale, which is white on the outside, and this one has a special feature. The interior is red. It's the same car, and yet the interior is different. And that's something that sometimes happens in Gran Turismo 7 with used cars, but not on all models. Actually, the list of affected models is quite short. It includes, for example, the TVR Tuscan or the Chevrolet Corvette from the 60s. There are others, but there really aren't many like that. Indeed, you can have different interiors from one unit to another, which is normally not possible in the game. Another pretty nice detail, now this one is a bit more for wheel players. I'm sorry, if you're using a controller you won't be able to enjoy it, because there's no force feedback in the controller's joystick. But indeed, when you're driving with a wheel and you draft behind a car in front of you, just like with a controller, you'll get better acceleration and potentially a higher top speed, but you'll also feel a difference in the steering stiffness. Indeed, when you're drafting, so really just behind the car in front of you, your steering feels lighter, and as soon as you move out, just a bit out of the slipstream, your vehicle's steering becomes a bit stiffer again. Right away, it gets a bit stiffer, there are a few more vibrations. I think that's mainly because as soon as you leave the slipstream, there are more external forces acting on the car, and that changes the way it handles a bit. Since we're talking about the physics in Gran Turismo 7 now, I'll tell you about a whole bunch of things the game takes into account when it comes to driving the cars, especially when it comes to rain. You should know that in Gran Turismo 7 there's already a small visual detail that doesn't affect the driving, but is still cool. When it rains, the speed of your windshield wipers will change depending on how hard it's raining. Here, we're dealing with a torrential downpour, so the wipers go really fast, and when there's a bit less rain, the wipers slow down a bit too. It's a small detail, but it's pretty cool. But that's not really where I wanted to spend the most time talking about the physics. There's another pretty cool detail about the rain and wind in this game, which affects both the visuals and the physics, and that's that the game takes the wind direction into account for a whole bunch of elements. It's noticeable when it rains. I'll show you on the straightaway. Here, if I take my Renault Espace F1 and I deliberately drive where there's a lot of water on the track to make it more noticeable, the wake behind me will push the rain in the direction of the wind, which is actually toward the west side of the circuit. I think that's super cool. You should know that the wind also affects certain objects in the scenery, like the grass and the trees, but especially, there's a pretty cool little detail. The grass also reacts to the speed of the cars as they go by, to the air displaced by the cars when they pass. For example, here. Look, you can see right in front of me, a little gust of wind. When the car goes by, there's a little gust of wind in the grass. Also, you should know that in Gran Turismo 7, the game's physics take into account a whole range of aerodynamic elements of the vehicle, like the DRS, for example. We know that DRS is present in the game, and we know that there are certain cars where you can activate it manually. For that, by the way, make sure to disable or uninstall your nitro, otherwise you just won't be able to use the DRS. It will use the nitro by default. What's quite interesting is that when you use DRS on certain cars, like the Porsche, for example, not only does the handling of the car change, but also its visual appearance. What I mean by that is, indeed, when you use the DRS, you see the wing move, but more importantly, you see the rear of the car lift up slightly. Quite simply, because when the DRS is activated and the wing lifts up to let more air through so the car can reach higher top speeds, it's less pressed to the ground, which also, thanks to the game's physics, causes the rear of the car to lift up. So using the DRS has an impact on driving, but also on the car's ride height. Keep in mind that this works for a whole bunch of things in the game. The pop-up headlights on Mazda RX-7S or on old Lamborghinis. Keep in mind that the game will take their deployment into account in the physics simulation. What I mean by that is, if you deploy the pop-up headlights on a Mazda RX-7 obviously, the aerodynamic drag of your car will be greater. And for example, you'll have a bit less acceleration at high speed and a slightly lower top speed than if the headlights are completely closed and the car's body is streamlined. There are really a lot of things in this Gran Turismo 7 that you don't necessarily notice unless you really pay attention. Honestly, I think once again it shows that the developers are really passionate about the world of cars and are especially committed to doing a good job. I hope this little video helped you discover some pretty cool things about this Gran Turismo 7. If that's the case, feel free to leave a like and subscribe for more. If you know of any others, once again, don't hesitate to suggest them in the comments. I'll add my Twitch link below so you can watch my streams. Follow and use Prime to support me for free. And I'll also share my instant gaming link, which lets you buy your games and PSN subscription cards, for example, at a lower price while giving a little support to my channel. I'll see you very soon for a new video. Bye.